What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new React Quick Win. Today I'm gonna show you how to build a side menu with Ionic React. So the side menu is like the second most popular interface after the tab bar, which we've seen before. For the side menu, we're also gonna set up a dummy login page and then move to the inside area, which has the sidebar. And actually, this also works on bigger screens because we're using the Ionic split pane, which automatically shows either a side menu on small screens like a phone, or on bigger screens automatically displays the side menu next to your content. So we'll go through all of this, through the routing setup, through the component, which components from Ionic to use, and also have more pages inside and basically finish the whole flow from inside to side menu and backwards. If you want to check out the source code, link below the video for all Ionic Academy members, and if you're not yet a member, go check it out right now, ionicacademy.com, my place to help you with everything Ionic. But now, let's build a cool side menu with Ionic React. Alright, let's dive into our Ionic React application. So first of all, start a blank new application using type React using the Ionic CLI. And then within your project, you can generate 4 new piles. You can simply run the touch commands if you want to. So this will generate the 4 files inside the pages folder. Additionally, you can already run Ionic Serve, which should bring up a nice preview of your Ionic application. I should have that up and running right here. Great. Now, this is to be expected in the beginning because we have generated 4 new pages. And because we're using TypeScript by default in an Ionic React application, the compiler will complain. Now, to fix this, we can head over to one of our pages. So let's say page 1. And insert like the most standard version of an Ionic page. So an Ionic page consists of the Ion page, Ion header, Ion toolbar, Ion title. So there's the header area, and of course the Ion content. Then we're gonna export everything and give it a name page 1. And we can do this, or we actually need to do this for all files that we edit. So we're gonna make this page 2. Because of course we need to do this, page 2. Actually, we should call this one page 1. We can call the menu. So this is really a bit messed up here. And then I think we also need it for the login, right? So let's name this one login, and login. So we could also just have an empty React component, then the compiler would work as well. But by doing this, we are now all ready for our application. So next step is to go to the app TSX. In here, we have the initial routing for our application, which normally routes using an exact match to home and a redirect from / to home. So whenever we go to just /, it will redirect us to home. In fact, we don't really want that home route anymore, so we can get rid of all of this. What we want instead is a route with an exact match to let's say the path /. So this will be our initial path, and here we want to render the component, which is login. So auto import would be great at this point. This is definitely possible. Thanks. There we go. At least like this. So now by default, if we go to /, we see our login. That's cool. Additionally, we want to show after the login the menu area. I think this makes the most sense because most people have an introduction page or a login page for their applications. And if we just start setting up the tabs in here, that's actually going to be a problem. Or in fact, no, we're not setting up the tabs. We're setting up a menu in this example, right? So what we're going to do is instead have a second route, which is the path, let's say app. And this will load everything that we have inside the menu. So that means we're gonna pretty much handle everything related to the menu, both the UI and also the routing, using this component. So this component, of course, right now won't work well, but I could already go to /app right now, and we would see we're on the menu page, which is this one. Now, before we do this, let's quickly implement our login, well, kind of login, more like a dummy login page. So let's bring up the login TSX again, and we're gonna start with a function here, and we also gonna add the Ionic router. So const navigation use ion router. We could also just do this with a router link, but usually if you do like authentication, you're gonna have a function which most likely makes an API call, and once the call is done, you want to then route the user. So once the function is done, you would call something like navigation push to push a new view on the stack. The path name will be app, so we're moving forward into our app area. Now we can actually select it. This has an effect on the animation that we see. So back, of course, doesn't really make sense. Forward would make sense. This is like pushing a stack on the page. Root would simply replace the view, and none is pretty much the same, I think, as root. So we're gonna go with forward for now. And we can also specify for the third parameter the route action, so pop, push, replace. If you're going from a login to an inside area, I would say that replace usually makes sense, since you don't really want to keep the login page in your history anymore. So then let's change this a bit to my cool page. And for the Ion content, we'll just include an Ion button. On click, we want to call our function which is do login, and we can also specify expand full to make the button appear full screen. Okay, cool. We have an empty button. Let's put in login, and there we go. And clicking this button should trigger the push animation. So you see, for example, I don't want to go to home. This is the Markdown preview, the material design preview. So Android, it usually does this little push. Why is it always going back to home? Because the initial page is not in my stack. If I would change the view to a device preview and then using an iPhone, it will already look different. So in that case, we would have this forward push animation. Now, if I would change this to not be forward, but root instead, let's see how this looks in that case. So that would simply replace our login page with that inside area. So that's completely up to you. What's the other one? Back, forward, is it back? Back, yeah. Back totally makes no sense if you go from login to, it looks kind of strange, so you definitely don't want to do that. So root should, I think, is the matching animation that you want to see when you go from login to an inside area. Now, as I said, we're gonna do everything for the menu on the menu page. So we can also make this a bit smaller again, so we can just code along. Now, for the menu page, what we need to do is, well, we need actually a few things. I'm gonna get rid of all of this for now and start with an Ion split pane. I would actually really love to have like a shortcut for this, because the Ion split pane is pretty cool. But the Ion split pane, we get a menu just like we would do without the split pane. Actually, let's give it a try. No, I don't want to do it without the split pane. It's usually cooler. So with the split pane, we have a menu on smaller screens, but once you go to bigger screens, you're gonna have the menu right here automatically opened at the side, which is a pretty handy functionality. So let's do this. The only thing we need to do to set this up is use the content ID here, and we're gonna need this in 2 more places. So we can just set it to main. You could also use foo. Just make sure you're using the same values. Then we have the actual Ion menu. In fact, you could also do this in its own component if you want to have it a bit more structured. And again, make sure you're going to put in main. So this will be the menu. And then the third part is the Ion router outlet. This is actually the place where your content will be rendered. So here we need to use main again. Again, we could use something else. Just make sure that all 3 have the same name in here. And now I think, I don't know, sometimes, yeah, we can actually already drag in the menu because that comes automatically with Ionic. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So without doing a lot, we already got the menu, and on bigger screens, you see, we automatically got the menu right here, and then it's close, and there it is. So that's pretty cool. But of course, it's not super helpful. So let's change this. For the menu, we can just include like the default setup of an Ion header, Ion toolbar, Ion title. So then for whatever we pull in from the side looks a bit better, although this now looks really strange. There we go. That looks better. And below we would usually put the items. So let's say we're gonna have two different paths in our component. One to a home page using /app/page1 and one to a news page. I will also add a few icons using the Ionicons, which are automatically installed. So then we can just iterate this information below the Ion header. So we're gonna do an Ion content in here as well. And then we're gonna go ahead, path.map. And for every item, we'll also use the index as the key. Make sure you're using just the round brackets, not the curly brackets. So we can just return an Ion item. But actually, I'm gonna surround the Ion item with something else that's called Ion menu toggle. Okay, I'm gonna show you why in a second. So then we can follow up with an Ion item. For the Ion item, we can use the router link of our iteration. So that should be item.path or URL, whatever. Here's important that we set the router direction once again, because if we don't set the router direction, we won't really get any forward or other animation out of the box, I think. Actually, I don't think we need forward here, but we're gonna check this out in a second. It's always nice to play around with those values. Then we got item.name, and of course, usually this complains, so we should put in key index up here. Okay, we're able to drag in the menu, and we got those two items. So we can select this one, and then we of course don't have a menu anymore. We could select this one. That's cool, that's cool. Now, all we need is of course the routing for these pages. So let's define this inside our Ion router outlet. The first thing we're gonna add is a route to our app page 1 using component page 1. And then we can do the same again for page 2 and the component page 2, of course. So if we set this up, we should already be able to actually navigate to them. App page 1, app page 2, but so far we don't see anything. It doesn't matter, we're gonna fix this in a second. Besides this, we should also set up one fallback path. The reason is, once we do a navigation within our app to just /app, which we in fact do inside our login page. So if we check out the login page again, we see we're just navigating to /app. We wouldn't really know which path to open initially inside our menu template. So to overcome this, we can add another fallback route with a redirect from app to app page 1. And now let's check out if we're actually able to go to the login. And yeah, we're automatically brought to app page 1. That's cool. The only problem is that we don't see anything on the screen. Maybe we should open the log here. Menu must have a content element. Well, that sounds quite interesting and also reasonable. So the Ion router outlet has the ID. The Ion menu has the content ID main, and the Ion split pane has the content ID main as well. What I forgot, of course, is to wrap all of this in an Ion page. So I've been working with this template quite long, and I couldn't get animations to work or encountered other crazy problems. And usually not using Ion page was a safe bet to mess up your animations and everything. So now I do get this. Actually, let's see, we're coming from the login page. So let's see, because that's a pretty good check. If there's no transition, we do have a transition. That's good news. So if there's no transition, you definitely messed something up with the navigation stack, because if you have multiple Ion router outlets, this can be quite confusing sometimes. But now I think we're Gucci here. So let's skip this and let's see. Well, we are on page 1. We have a side menu. We can go to new use. Page 2. Did we not add anything to page 2? We did. Export default page 2. That looks good. We did set up our routing for page 2. So what's wrong right now? Well, you never really know for sure. But for page 1 at least, we can already include a little button to open the menu, because you might have noticed that, yeah, we can drag in the menu, but we definitely need that burger icon up there. So let's open the page 1 TSX and add Ion buttons, which is a wrapper for Ion for the buttons. And we're gonna put this in the starting slot of our toolbar, which is the left-hand side. Then we're gonna put in not a default button, but instead an Ion menu button. So this button automatically knows if there's a menu, it will be displayed. If there's no menu, it won't be displayed. You could also give it the menu ID, I think, yeah. So if you have multiple menus, you can make sure that it only reacts to one specific menu. So now we got the menu. Actually, I think in our item, yeah, the router direction forward is definitely not a great idea. I don't know if this would already fix the issue. So let's go to app page 1. No, that's not really fixing the issue. Also, at this point, I noticed that we are not using our Ion icon, so we certainly want to use the Ion icon here. For the Ion icon, we need not only a name, but we need an actual object. So we imported a few up here: home outline, newspaper outline, lockout outline. But in our iteration, we can just use item.icon. And yeah, we can close it like this or another way, doesn't really matter. I wonder, we made some real issues somewhere, and I'm gonna have to figure out why. So we got the Ion item. Yeah, the Ion icon should be once again in the slot start, because it's definitely too close to our text, which usually means, well, that's not correct what we did here. But besides that, we have a bigger problem, because normally we should be able to just reload this page and see the actual page. So something here is wrong with our Ion router setup. We do have the Ion router outlet ID set to main. We have the split pane content ID set to main, and we do have the Ion menu. So let me check what's wrong. I already found the problem. So in our app TSX, we specified an exact match for app. That's not a good idea, because then we'll only match for /app, and all the other routes that we had in our application won't be catched by that. So I'm pretty sure that should be already a fix. Yes, and now we can reload this, and we're finally able to navigate between page 1 and page 2. And of course, I could also now go back here and do a login, and then we would be back inside. Actually, for the menu, we should probably also add a little logout button. So let's just do this manually below the Ion menu toggle, or below the iteration. So let's just do an Ion button in here with a router link. Yeah, slash. Of course, normally you would add an on-click listener and then do whatever, remove your tokens. In our case, we'll just do it like this. Router direction should be back or root, whatever you prefer in that case. Expand full. And then we should already see the button coming up. That looks good. And let's probably sneak in another icon. I don't know why this opens. It should open the curly brackets, really. Lock out. Oh, come on, please give me code completion. It's not that hard. Ion icon, lockout, outline, slot, start, and then lockout. All right, there we go. We are able to go back here. Then we can go back in and we can navigate around. We should probably give page 2 also that burger icon up there, but that's not something that's critical. Now, there's one more thing that I want to show you, and this is how you can go deeper, because usually if you're here, you might want to go into list details, a user card, whatever it might be. So let's add a button to our page 1, Ion button, which will go to a route, app, page 1, details. So of course, this could be anything, which this page, of course, doesn't exist yet. So let's see how we can set this up in our app routing, or actually in fact in the menu routing, because the menu routing handles pretty much everything that we need. Also, at this point, we might want to add another page. So let's kill this and run touch source pages details tsx, And for the details page, we can do once again what we did initially to all the other pages. So open the details page and put in the usual code for a page. So we have a React functional component, we have an Ion page header toolbar, and we have buttons with an Ion back button. The Ion back button is pretty cool because it will render if there's something to go back, and we can also specify a default href, which helps us to load directly on that page and then go back, even if we just started, to our app page 1. All right, this is the details page, nothing really special about it. Now we just need to include that in our routing, and I'm gonna add it right here, app page 1/details, using the details component. And with that in place, we should be able to actually go deeper. We see a forward navigation and we see a backward navigation, and the details page is working perfectly within our menu setup. If you, for some reason, want to open the details page from somewhere else, well, then you will have to add it to the app TSX, but usually it should work like this. So of course, you could do something like this, like details outside, because you noticed when we went to details, we actually could drag in the menu. That's usually not correct. I actually don't know why this is happening, because normally Ionic is handling this correctly. But if you want to have like the details page outside of the actual menu, you could just define the route outside up here and then include another button. Okay, what was the name of the route? Details outside. Great name, Simon. Go deeper, go details outside. Let's use it like this. And then when we do it like this from here, we shouldn't have, we're not able to drag in any kind of menu, but we could still go back. But anyway, that's a kind of weird behavior. So definitely not do it like this. I would just keep it inside, which makes a lot more sense. And with that, I think we have finished the round trip. We're able to log in, go to the inside area, go to a details page, switch between pages using the side menu, and finally log out again. Alright, and that's it for today's quick win. I actually noticed that I haven't shown you the split pane functionality in the end, which I celebrated so much in the beginning, so give it a try, check it out in your own application. You're gonna see how the application behaves when you change the size or the width of your window. Besides that, the side menu setup is actually not too complicated. Just make sure you put the Ion page around those texts if you want to keep everything in the Ion router outlet and keep the animations, because I really encountered a lot of problems with it, and I also found a lot of questions about exactly this problem online. And I think the setup we have in here should fix this. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button for the video, and of course stay subscribed for more Ionic videos in the future, and in general how to build awesome mobile applications as a web developer. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do, and I will catch you inside the next video, and until then, happy coding, Simon.